Maybe I can illustrate it with here on my screen. This is an attempt to depict the energy systems and the agricultural system as a kind of a bicycle. The driving force is the sun, creating wind, blowing on wind turbines and shining on solar panels. This energy can, via different kinds of transformation systems, be converted into fuels, which can be used in automobiles and ships and whatever we need for driving or transportation. It also, of course, can be used as it is electricity in buildings and the industries. All these activities emit CO2, which basically returns to the atmosphere. In these kinds of transforming industries, CO2 is added to the power from the electricity grid and transformed into transportation fuels. When they are burnt, it still becomes CO2, but basically, where did we get the CO2 from over here? Well, CO2 is accumulated in a biological system, which is depicted over here as the back wheel of the bicycle. So in some ways, we can say that energy from the sun is fueled into the rear wheel of a bicycle and pushes the bicycle forwards. So that's why we use the bicycle as a symbol of the CO2 neutral system. So in essence, what we want to do is create as much biomass for the different kinds of uses that we have for biomass, like food or things for burning, on the one hand, and collect CO2 from this system when it's emitted and transfer it to new energy systems which can reuse the CO2 and transform it into fuels. In that way, we obtain a circular system of CO2 and everything gets CO2 neutral, no fossils at all. Yeah, the TSI project is an EU-funded project where focus has been on providing local authorities a means of modeling CO2 neutral energy systems, and that is something of a task. How does an energy system become CO2 neutral? Well, as its current, or most energy systems that currently are depending on fossil fuels, that's quite a task. But in essence, it would be building the energy system on wind turbines and solar panels for producing electricity and converting that electricity into different kinds of fuels, heating and whatever we need in the energy system. Plain Energi's role has been to provide a set of materials for making exercises in modeling that kind of system. And that's quite a task in itself. The reason why we have been able to do that in Plain Energy is that we made some climate accounts for Danish municipalities. Why has Plain Energy been involved? Well, Plain Energy is probably the main advisor in Denmark on different kinds of energy systems which are based on CO2 neutral production. So we're main advisors within district heating, biogas, solar panel parks and so on in Denmark. But we also have this little subsidiary department which is working with climate audit or climate auditing, climate accounts. We can call it several different things. And we have made climate accounts for municipalities for quite some years, starting out with energy accounts, where we were tracking the use of different kinds of fuels, or all kinds of fuels in the Danish energy system, and also the transition to CO2 neutral production. A climate account is of course a lot of numbers, first of all. The climate account is a local level of inventory or the national inventory translated into local units. I don't know what precisely to call that. So it's basically taking the national inventory, reporting on CO2 emissions in CO2 equivalents, and taking it down on a local level. An inventory is a lot of numbers about the energy consumption, about transportation systems, about industrial emissions of different kinds of climate gases, and also of the agricultural sector and land use. Well, a climate account is a huge number of digits, numbers, and to find your way in it, exercises could be a good thing. So exercises come with the climate accounts in different ways. One is, or could be, just to get to know what the account contains, and the other one is to make it operable. What should I say? To be able to construct and model new things in it. But basically, the climate account is a replication of a national inventory report in a local setting. The accounts that we made for Danish municipalities can be summarized in a large matrix here in this screen, shown in a very simple version, and it can be unfolded. The climate account sums up on all different sources of CO2 emissions or other climate gases, and it does on a very or on a quite detailed level, such as accounting the CO2 emission from every single species of husbandry in the local community, the number of cars in the local community, the amount of energy used in cities in the local community. And it's structured in a way so that it's also possible to see what would be the consequences if you change, for example, the number of livestock, number of animals. What would be the effect on CO2 emissions? In that way, the climate account can be used as a tool for monitoring. How does CO2 emissions evolve? But it can also be used as a tool for modeling possible changes, or what we could call scenarios. In Denmark, we are lucky to have very detailed data on a lot of things. There is a lot of reporting being done from companies and also from agriculture to the state level. If that kind of data is not possible to get access to, the user need to make some kind of estimates on the current contributions of CO2 emissions for every single sector. But it is not extremely important to have the level of detail that we do in Denmark. It can be performed by using less detailed data, because what is important is more to be able to model changes to whatever you have. Of course, it's nicer to have a very complete picture of emissions, but we all know that all societies have quite large CO2 emissions, so what should be focused on is actually the reduction, and that should be possible for most professionals to use the accounting layout for. Yes, the construction is the same as in the Danish inventory, as I said a little bit previously. And the inventories are the same all over the world. It's the UN, the IPCC, who set the framework for inventories. And as such, it should be possible to take any national inventory and break down. Depending on the level of breaking down, the level of detail, it can be necessary to change some of the base data and the basic constructions when we go into the depth of the accounts to a less detailed level than we have in the Danish version. But if that should be needed, we would be pleased at Plan Energy to help out adjusting for another country's needs. Actually, we use two different sets of data. One is the inventory, where emission factors for all activities are stated. So in the inventories, a set of tables summing up on the activities like combustion in cars is stated together with the CO2 emissions stemming from this activity. So with the knowledge of the amount of transportation, the number of cars, and the emissions from this, you can break it down and make a factor of emission for one single car or one single kilometer transportation, or however it's stated. The same thing goes for land use. You can break down what is the emissions from a specific activity measured in single units, and thus you get a factor of emission from 1 hectare. And it would be reasonable to suggest that the emission factor in a country would be approximately the same no matter where you are in the region. I know there are large differences between, for example, the north and the south of the United States. It's a huge country, but still it could be okay to approximate that to a national average emission factor. The other set of part of the data is exactly the units, the amount of activity on a different in all the different sectors. And that is the tedious work that you should be able to do, find the data, so you find out how many cars are running in the district you're trying to model, how many cows are there, how much agricultural area, which kind of area, is it forests, and so on. And once you have those data, you can put it into the accounts, and then you create the basis for modeling changes to the total system. They are made to provide a tool for strategic planning. That said, of course, any citizen with a basic knowledge of the CO2 system and the energy systems and so on would be able to get information out of it to clarify where emissions stem from in his community. But they are primarily designed for planning purposes, at least at the moment. We hope in Plain Energy to develop these accounts so that they can become more user-friendly and digestible for ordinary people also, to some extent at least. In Denmark, we have had a process similar to the C40, which is an organization of large cities trying to make public the CO2 emissions and the carbon footprint of a city on the atmosphere. And Danish municipalities has taken over that concept and have, just about all of them, have made strategic plans for reducing overall CO2 emissions, and that comes in line with a decision on national level that the Danish as a country should have reduced our climate impact by 70% before 2030 and have a net zero emission at 2050. So many Danish municipalities have publicized their strategic plans about how to reduce in their homepages. Generally, you would be able to go to the internet, Google any municipality, largest city name from Denmark, find the municipality homepage and search for something about climate, and you could find their plans. Many of them have extensively used the climate accounts as a basis for that, because without a base year, it's not possible to model what will happen in the future, given different policies. Now you found this video, so you can always also find Plain Energy. You also might go into a platform called Moodle, which is used by our other project partner, Samsø Energi Academy. You can Google that, for instance. But here I've shown you the full package of materials that could be used for constructing your own climate account, or climate audit, and for also making exercises to model a CO2 neutral system. So first thing is we made a brief introductory manual which introduces you to the whys and whats. Then there's a guideline for the energy balance tool, which is part of the audits. Then there's a full background note to how the climate part of the audits, of the accounts are constructed. And as a fourth instruction, there is one for the special exercises, modeling exercises. Hopefully, a couple of other videos can make you understand a little bit more about what to do and how and where to find. There is one video about the construction of the audits and another one of how to make reference in the audit, so how to work with it. Finally, there is an introduction, also a video of how to understand the bicycle, basically, and to get started with using the accounts. So we provided a climate account specially constructed for making exercises, and the numbers in it is a smaller Danish region, actual numbers for a smaller Danish region, that is. And then finally, and also very important, is another Excel file with scenario building exercises. If you go through those step by step and use the instruction, the number 4 up here, to perform this step-by-step exercise, you will get an impression of what is needed to make a full modeling of the CO2 neutral system. Everything is free of access, yes, and it's possible to change anything you want in the Excel files, that is, of course. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Well, the world is in urgent need of having or experiencing a change of systems so that we can avoid a future disaster.
So to sum it up, in 2 words, what is a TSI project? What was it created for, and what's the outcome of it? Just in 2 words.
Oh, 2 words, I cannot do that. But the TSI project is for modeling a carbon neutral world.
Mm-hmm. And how is it being made? In 2 words?
By modeling CO2 emissions via accounting.
Collecting information which helps to model further steps, current situation and further steps.
Yeah. Use a tool, enter your data, relevant data, see what the result is, what is your carbon baseline, and start making changes.